Unleash the power of purpose with impactful business voices, hosted by Nancy Baki and Anita Larsen. Each week, you'll be inspired by stories from companies that are making a real difference in the world, and you'll learn practical tips on how to grow your business with an impact.
Hey, everybody, and thank you for listening to Impactful Business Voices podcast, where every week we talk to a different business owner that makes an impact on the world, in their communities, or in the lives of their clients as well. We're here to find out what drives them, and we hope that it's going to inspire you and make an impact in your own business as well. We're your hosts. I'm Nancy Baki.
And I'm Anita Larsen. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. And we are, as always, excited to talk to our weekly guests. And today we're joined by Jennifer R. Hudson. Make sure I say the full name here so you don't confuse it. But she is an amazing strategic communications consultant. She's an advocate, a speaker, a trainer, and she's spent over 25 years in PR. And she's going to talk to us about how to intertwine your communications with your business goals and make sure that you elevate the diverse voices in the corporate world with your communication plan. And also, we're going to talk about the importance of core values in your business and your communication plan. So this is important. Let's get our communication where it needs to be. So let's get started. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
It's awesome to have you. Thank you for coming. Listen, you are a powerful woman, Jennifer. I don't know you very much as Anita. I know Anita knows you for, goodness, I know it's over a decade.
Yeah.
So,
thanks, Nancy.
Listen,
Thank you.
That doesn't make us sound old, guys. We're still 21. Okay, please. So,
no, I own and claim all my years. So,
oh, I love it, Jen. I love it. Listen, I would love to know a little bit more about you, your journey. You know, what has really led you to your focus on strategic communication consulting?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to start about 20 years ago when I was working on my master's in public relations and journalism. I was working for American Airlines in the corporate communications department. And it was a wonderful opportunity to both learn the theory and to have the practicum at the same time. And what I realized through grad school was that there is actually a science to the practice of public relations. And I was seeing bits and pieces of it in the practice of working at American. And when I learned about, at the time we called it the RACE formula, research, action, communication, evaluation. It's since we call it RPI in the PR world, research, planning, implementation, evaluation. But when I learned that framework, it was like, wow, public relations, first of all, is not just about media. It is truly about it's a management function about relating to your various publics. And those publics can be news media. That public could be your employees, the community, government officials, investors. And so all of that is a part of the field of public relations. And so I'll fast forward now. When I went out on my own, and there's a story behind that as well, that was after the airline industry kind of went bust after 9/11. And I was sort of, where do I go now? When I started my business, I knew that I wanted to focus on strategic communications, that I really wanted to help small to mid-sized businesses and nonprofits professionalize their communications, to recognize that there's an art and a science to PR, that it's about more than media, that if you think strategically about your communications and connect it to your business goals, it helps you, and using frameworks, it helps you mitigate risk. It helps you find opportunities. It helps you find in creative ways other opportunities to tell your story and to communicate about your brand to the different publics that are important to you. That's how I got to this point.
Yeah, it's really great to see, because sometimes we're sitting on the inside of the business and we don't understand what's going on, but you're sitting on the outside and you're seeing what you're seeing on that on what our business is really focusing on from the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I talked about the RPI framework, when I use that framework, it allows me to do that. So in that research phase, I'm looking at, where are you communicating today? So what channels are you in? I always say, like, everybody doesn't need to be on TikTok. Is that where your key cut? Maybe as digital marketers, you're like, what? But where are your key publics living, working, and playing? Those are the channels you need to exist in.
Absolutely.
And so going through that research phase where I'm auditing your communications, not only what channels, but what are you saying when you're in those channels? Who's communicating the most? Is it the CEO? Is it who's spreading the message, and what is the message? It really helps me to dig deep. And I use this frame, this thing I created myself. I call it the 3Cs framework, where I look at the company, customers, competitors, and I ask tons of questions. I know we're going to talk about core values in a bit, but one of my core values for my business is curiosity. And I just love digging deep. And I think that comes from my corporate background, where I really was in the thick of things. Like, I really had to know about what was going on in multiple different departments in order to do my job effectively. And so I work with clients today. If I don't know as much about your business as you do, or at least, 3/4 as much, I can't be the best communications support for you. And so I really like to dig deep. Even if the outcome is media relations, when I dig deep like that, I uncover stories that we otherwise might not have known if I hadn't been asking so many questions. And I've had clients get frustrated with the kinds of questions I ask. But then when they see later, for example, when the result of asking all of those questions in the case of media, when it allowed us to secure a story, then they see the benefit of it. So yeah, digging deep and asking those questions and getting curious about the business is something I'm very passionate about.
That is actually very similar to how Nancy and I operated. It's funny because I've gotten that from clients as well. They're like, "Oh my God, I have to go through this again. I can't tell you how many consultants I worked with," and it's like, okay, I get it. But then after it's all done and we sit there with a different view now of what your business is and where you're gonna go, then you get, okay, it was worth the effort. It was worth the work. And now I have a direction, right? So
right.
And it opens their mind too. Like they're asked questions that they're never asked, never thought of themselves. So it does drive them eventually when they accept that first step, right?
Yeah. And I ask people about their personal lives, what books they like to read, what brings them joy, what keeps them up at night. I want to know, what industries are fascinated with, what products they buy. People don't often realize that there are stories within their stories that can enhance their brand, and that can really, especially in the case of small to mid-sized business owners, that can really endear people to their brand when they know, we like doing business with people that we know and that we like. And so, all of the things that make you who you are as a business owner could be very appealing to someone. So I like to your customers. So I like to know those things.
And a lot of times too, especially like you said, for small and medium business owners, their business is a true reflection of who they are. It reflects their personal values, and it's an extension of them in many ways. Yeah.
Whether they've thought consciously about that or not, right? It is. Which is why I think it's so important to get conscious about thinking about your values. What do I stand for?
Yes.
What do I believe in? What do I want my business to stand for? How do I define that for myself? What does that look like when I'm operating my business? How am I operationalizing my values? Thinking consciously about that. I mentor and coach entrepreneurs through some nonprofit organizations here in South Florida, the Venture Mentoring Team and Radical Partners. And I really like to have conversations with folks about core values, because I just think that they tell the world who you are, but they also tell the world who you are not. And when it's time to make tough decisions, I think it's so important to always lean into those values. When it's time to make tough decisions about your business, with whom you should partner, if you're hiring, if you need to fire, the kinds of vendors that you'll work with, like how do all of those things align with who you believe you are as a business and what your values are as a business. I've probably jumped us ahead a topic.
No, it's
We were talking about strategic communications, but I tell you, one of the reasons I started focusing on values actually was because when I would go through communications planning, there are a few different moments where there are workshops, big meetings that I have with clients. In the research phase, it's during a communication SWOT. And this is where there's a wonderful opportunity to bring in other people in your organization to help you do that. What do you think we do a really good job communicating? What are you seeing out in the marketplace, or it could be a threat to our ability to communicate well with our key customers? In the planning phase, there's a messaging session that I facilitate, and that's another opportunity to bring in, the diverse voices behind the brand, really looking at what makes the people who work with you different and getting their perspectives in that session. And in that messaging session, we talk about core values. And in some cases, businesses, either in the worst case scenario, they didn't have core values, or if they did, people didn't know what they were, didn't really know what they stood for, couldn't really define how they showed up in, not only in a tangible way in the business, but also just in their own lives. How am I living out this value from my business in the way that I'm engaging and interacting with my colleagues, in the way that I'm engaging and interacting with customers? And so when I saw that there was that gap, I was like, maybe there's a way I can help people develop those core values. And so I developed another little simple framework for that. It's like 3 areas: identify, define, and attach behaviors. Because what one value means to someone, one company could mean something completely different to another. Like, what does it mean to you? And I love going through that process with companies too.
So you mentioned frameworks a couple of times, and I know that's a big topic for you. So talk to us about frameworks. What's the importance of frameworks, and how do you use them in your planning process?
Especially for communications professionals, I talked about that art and the science of communications. I think using frameworks and having if you are a public relations professional, having your leaders or your clients know that there is a science to communications professionalizes our work. And I'm really big on elevating our profession. So there's a framework that we can use that helps us find all kinds of opportunities, the gaps, where we really need to focus our communications. Especially the communications planning framework helps, I think, protect resources. So, when you, in a messaging session, we also work through target audiences, like to whom should we be communicating? Why is that important? I want people to justify why we should be spending our hard-earned budget to communicate with an audience, because that it takes money to communicate with different folks in different ways and different channels. And so leaning into these frameworks just really helps say, okay, this is where we said we would focus for the next 1 to 2 years. And really for the person who's managing communications, I kind of want to help them out, which is why I talk to business leaders about this as well. Like, I want the business leaders to know that their communications person can't get pulled in 1,000 different directions if they're going to be effective. Right. And so going through this planning process and involving a range of voices, including senior leaders, gets everybody on the same page to say, okay, this is our business goal. This is where we want to take this company in the next 5 years. In order to get there, and in order to use communications to help us get there, we've got to focus those communications around something. We've got to focus those communications on a particular audience. We've got to communicate to that audience with certain messages. We've got to communicate those messages through certain channels. And oh, by the way, we need to make sure that we understand what success looks like. How are we going to define success?
Yeah.
And so the framework helps us do that, helps us evaluate, helps us course correct. I love frameworks because of that.
Hey.
There's a messaging framework I use in the messaging workshop. We answer 5 questions. Who are we? What do we do? Who do we serve? Why are we unique? Why should anyone care? And there's a process I use when I facilitate as well. So yeah, I just think frameworks are life.
Well, I'm the process person, and you can't give me enough frameworks.
Yeah,
so I agree 100%.
Too. That's right.
It's important. You have to. It just helps you stay on track.
Yeah,
that's simple. It helps you
stay on
focus,
track.
Plan, and stay on track.
Yeah,
totally. And we know how critical core values are. I mean, that is like the most important. For you in your business, in your, in what you do every day with your clients. Maybe you could provide an example of how this action is, the core values in shaping a business's communication, a specific strategy that you use.
So this is sort of a light example, but I'll give you this example. It's actually not that light, I guess. One of my core values is laughter. And I know what that means for me is that if I'm going to work for myself, I want to have fun. I want to have fun doing business with clients. I love laughing. I come from a family of laughers. We slap our knees and laugh all that we love. And so I want to have fun doing this work. I work really hard. Another of my core values is excellence, and I'm going to put everything I can into it so that I can make sure I do the absolute best for you. But I also want to have fun. And so if I can't laugh with a client, if I can't have moments of levity, even while we're doing this really intense, deep work, that's a drag for me, quite frankly. So anyway, because it's so important for me, I also do digital marketing for my business. You'll see me on LinkedIn, right? That's on Instagram. And it informs the posts that I write. And so that I develop, or that, I have a digital marketing agency that helps me with my posts. And so actually this one was before I hired the agency, but I did a post on laughter and why that was important to me. I don't necessarily need to say my core value is laughter, but it was a post where I said something about, it was a picture of me laughing. And I said something about how important it was for me to enjoy what I do and the work I do. I work really hard, that kind of thing. And so who you are as a business can inform the way you tell stories about yourself. It can even inform the way you develop pitches when you're trying to, if you're B2B and you're trying to reach certain clients. It can inform the way you onboard an employee, the way you position job descriptions, the way you develop RFPs. Like all of it can be influenced by all of those areas of storytelling and who are we as a business. Even the way that you determine the vendors that you work with, the way that you design your contracts. I mean, I just think core values are at the heart of everything, should be at the heart of everything that we do.
Oh, yes. I am so on your side. And, many forget that that's what they need. That laughter that you said it was so small and then you changed your mind. I'm so glad you did. Because that is one of the most important things when we meet a total stranger or even somebody that we know. That is that, I call it smiling is contagious. Smiling and laughter, it's healthier than fiber. So why don't we just work on it together and, make that employee, that business partner, that community that you work with, just smile every day. Why not?
Yeah.
It is the base of life, I believe.
No, I agree too. I think core values are so important. Like we said earlier, it reflects you into your business. It makes
Mhm.
you in your business. But I want to go back to something you said earlier, and we touched on briefly, and that's making sure you include all the diverse voices of your staff in your communication planning. So, can
Mhm.
we talk about the importance of that? Because I agree
Yeah.
100%. You got to get their input. But talk to us about the importance of that and what that looks like.
Yeah. So when I talked about those interviews that I do, all the questions I ask in that research phase, I'm not just asking those questions of senior leaders. I like to go deep and ask, like, I want to talk to admin. I want to talk to an entry
Mm,
level person. I want to talk to somebody who's just new to the company. Um, because there are wonderful ideas that people have that are probably like stewing and brewing that they never get the opportunity to share. And if
Mm,
we don't bring them into the process, we miss those great ideas. That's, the biggest example that I can give you of why it's so important is George Floyd's murder in 2020, when
mm,
companies started throwing up the black square that they were, to
mm,
demonstrate that they were about it, inclusive, whatever. And their employees went ballistic and people called them on it. People,
yeah.
the ones who were disingenuous were called on it. It can be very damaging and detrimental to your brand
mm,
to portray something externally to the world that
Yeah.
you are actually not embodying internally. Like, and I always say, get your own house in order first. Like, I want to know what my employees are thinking, what they, and I want companies to like realize that the Black, the Hispanic, Asian, neurodiverse, LGBTQ, like we want, you know, people with disabilities. We want their different perspectives. And I think we have to be intentional about seeking those perspectives and not being afraid to say that and why.
Mm,
I bring a unique perspective as a Black woman. I bring a unique perspective as a Spanish speaker. I bring a unique perspective as someone who's lived abroad. All of these things that we are as employees can really help. It doesn't mean that you've got to go that deeply with your employees, but they need to be included in the room. The other wonderful benefit is that they get more engaged with the brand. Like when I lead messaging sessions and employees have an opportunity to hear where they may not have had the opportunity before, like what the business goals actually are, or to engage with their colleagues and other departments that they may not have engaged with
mm.
before. Like
mhm,
that's really powerful. You're building brand ambassadors. I also say you can kind of dilute the brand assassins, the
Yeah,
naysayers, because
exactly.
employees like to be a part of the communications planning process. They like to share their views about the brand. They're hearing things from customers that we're not always going to hear. Communications folks like me, we will often work only with senior leaders, or we'll, work only with the CEO, or we'll just work by ourselves in a vacuum or with our other communications folks. And so I like to tell us, it's important for us to be intentional about bringing those voices in and doing that on a regular basis.
I agree 100%. And it's kind of goes into what you said earlier. The public is not just, okay, this customer here. The public is also your future employees, your current
Yes.
employees, your
Yeah.
investors, your board members. It's anybody that has a stake
Potential
in the
buyers if
future.
you're looking
Yeah,
to sell. Yeah.
yeah,
exactly. And
Yeah.
I think your employees, they are going to have a very unique perspective that you as a leader don't have the insight to, and it's important
Yeah.
for you to get their viewpoint.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. You explained this a little bit earlier, just like you dabbled on it a little bit, but I'd love to hear more. Can you explain the difference between the traditional approach to public relations and the strategic communications approach that you advocate for? Like
Yeah.
that what makes it more effective in your view?
So I guess traditional public, I should say this, that for me, strategic communications is public relations. So if we were in a different world, I should be able to say public relations and immediately have you infer from that strategic communications. That's my dream for the world,
Right.
you know, for me to say public relations and for people to think, oh, that's that practice where you're communicating with different publics and not just that I'm pitching stories to a reporter. And let me make sure I remembered your question. I'm sorry, I started getting off and I got on my soapbox about that. It was about the difference between the two.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, again, this is hard for me because public relations is strategic communications, but traditional PR, the way people think of it, is a focus on news media, a focus on media relations and getting coverage in you know, radio, television. That is very much a part of public relations, but it's not all that we do, and it shouldn't be all that we do. And so you can have a strategic approach to media relations, and you absolutely should do. Who are our key reporters that we want to reach? What aspect of our company is important to each of those reporters? What are the channels that we're going to use to reach those reporters? Once you do the sort of corporate communications planning, you've also got to do the same in a mini way for each of the different audiences that you'd like to reach. If you land on employee communications as really important for the next 1 to 2 years, who are our different employee groups? What messages about the company do we need to communicate with them? What are the best channels to reach those different groups? And so I guess, you know, if there is anything that I would impress upon business owners and communications folks alike, it's just the importance of thinking through why as much as what. You know, like why are we sending this news release? Is there a way that we could, and it's whatever, if you have a solid reason and that solid reason is tied to where you want to go as a business in the next 5 years, then absolutely do it. But if you're just doing it for busy work and to churn out news releases that really aren't doing much, not even increasing awareness or, you know, then it's important to think about why you're doing that and if that's the proper place to expend your resources. So yeah, I mean, the difference is that, you know, I mean, both should be strategic, but the difference is that there's a framework within strategic communications planning that can overlay what you're doing in any channel. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
okay.
no, yeah.
Not does it make sense, but did I answer your question? Okay. All right.
So what are some common challenges? So when you come in and you start working with a new client, what are some of the common challenges you see in their communication planning and how they're currently doing things? Like, what can you help them correct? What missteps? I'm not going to say what are they doing wrong, but what missteps may they be taking before they engage with you?
Yeah. Oh, I love that question. So it's all the things that I've just sort of talked about, right? That this belief that the PR person is there to get media coverage, that there's not a science to public relations, that they know more than the communications person does about communications. That happens so much in our profession. You know, people think that they can do it themselves or that they know more than the communications person does. And then I think also failing to really listen to their staff, failing to take a step back and pause when it's time to make a decision that impacts communications. This is especially true of, can be especially true of nonprofit organizations, people who are serving people in community. They're so often like heads down in it that they don't have time to like take a deep breath and like sit back and go, okay, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
You know, and that happens with small business owners too, right? With mid-sized business owners, like you're just going at it, like, and that need to like halt and say, wait, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Is this really getting me where I want to go? Is there another way? And I think taking that step back and taking a breath and a pause is helpful really for anyone.
Oh, I agree. Jennifer, listen, that is one of my favorite questions to ask people. Why do you do what you do every day? Why are you doing this? The whatever strategy they decided, like the why behind it. And it's so funny because they don't question it. And I think it boils down to they just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Then when you come in or we come in, and we really ask those questions, it's really that driver of them understanding what is their next.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And it is true. People don't know what they don't know, which is why you have people with different areas of expertise that you should have around you,
Oh, yes.
You know, as a business owner, I will say one of the things that has always vexed me is that I am not an expert in finance. Like that is just, and then I had a beautiful colleague. I'm in the National Association of Women Business Owners, and this beautiful, wonderful colleague like met with me, and she's like, Jennifer, you don't have to know everything.
You don't.
You don't have to be the expert in everything. It's important to like outsource and bring in folks who can help you. That was some years ago. I was like, I don't have to know everything. I don't have to do everything. So even as a business owner, I had those things too. So I know that that's the case for the companies that we work with, right? Like they don't know until somebody's like, here's a better way to manage your communications. Here's this beautiful framework.
I had I don't even remember the context, but I think it just came up like last week where somebody around me, as a business or person, I don't even remember. This kind of just stuck with me. They were like, this was my fault. I should have asked more questions, is what this person said. And I'm like, but you wouldn't know what questions to ask because this was new to you. So I think that kind of translates to every business owner I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes we simply have to learn by doing, and we don't know what questions to ask. Next time we will know.
Yeah.
But you just have to, you can't beat yourself up over it. We're all learning as we go, and every situation is unique. So it's part of the process.
Well said, Anita. Really well said. Really well said. And you're so right, because we do, as humans, sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves, but yes, I love it. Jennifer,
give ourselves grace.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. I love that. And that's so true. Jennifer, this has been really great. What are some key tips that you could leave our audience with, to make sure that they're set in the right direction for the communications planning?
So that's a big one. I think at a very basic level, just understanding that it's important to make sure you know what you think you know before you start planning. So I often hear we were the first to do this. We're the only ones to do this. That other company doesn't do this as well as we do. I think making sure that you know what you think you know by looking at how you're communicating today, looking for themes in what you're communicating, and seeing if that aligns with what you'd like to be communicating about your company is an important thing to do. Really understanding whether or not the audiences, the customers that you're targeting should be the ones that you're targeting right now and why. Many times when I work with startups, they think that they've got a target market fit with one group, and then it ends up being something else when they start getting out and asking the questions. And then really taking an honest look at the resources that you have available to you. I tell people if you can't properly service a weekly blog with excellence, then don't do the blog,
Mhm.
you know.
Right.
But if you can probably service a blog with, on a monthly basis, then do that. The key is consistency. I think that's probably my biggest piece of advice is the consistency. If you're consistent in your communications, even if you're making some missteps, well, you don't want to make too many missteps, but
Mhm.
if you're consistent, um, that goes so much further. And then really thinking through, what kind of outcome am I looking for? What does success look like for me with communications? And how will I know that I've gotten it? How will I know that I've gotten there?
Mhm.
And I just sort of like summarize all four of those stages that I talked about. I always go back to that framework. So
Yeah, no,
those
that was great. That
that's
was really
that's essentially, what that looks like. And
Well,
then including your employees, including
yeah.
other voices, board, trusted advisors, making sure that you're getting other voices and your partners, your customers. What do people think about your brand?
I love it.
Yep.
I want to say, from the moment I first met you, Jennifer, which is more years that I'm going to mention live here right now, I think a few of the things that really stuck with me, my first interaction with you was really with your knowledge and skill sets and the integrity with which you do your work and the passion you have for it. So, after all these years, that's all still.
Oh, I just lost
Oh,
Anita.
yeah, don't worry. So did I. Oh, she's gonna come back. Where are you, Anita? 5,
Oh.
4, 3, 2, 1. Hold on. Where are you? But okay. Well,
Anita.
I
Well,
I'll continue talking and see if she comes back, and hopefully it won't. She'll come back.
okay.
I just wanted to get that. Did you get an idea of what she was going to talk about at all?
Yeah, I think I hope she was saying that she still sees it present in me today,
Yes.
which is a lovely, lovely compliment, if that's what she was going to say.
Yeah, no, I believe that too. And let's continue because something might have happened on her internet side, which is she'll be back. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there she goes. Listen, Jennifer, this has been wonderful. It's wonderful to get to know you. And you brought a few things that were very important. It's the consistency and the why. What
Yeah.
is the why behind everything that you do? And businesses need to ask themselves, why am I doing this? Why
Mhm.
am I hiring this employee? Why is this employee staying? What
Yeah.
can this employee bring more to this so that there's better communication in the company?
Yeah.
Um, and
Love that.
I'd have to say, like, and please, you know this more than me because you've been in it more than me, but since the pandemic, I find that there's two different types of businesses that came out. There's the ones that really realized and recognized, oh my God, we need more communication because if we don't, we're never going to have the right employees for our business. They actually took the time to do that. And there's the other one where they said, nope, that's not important. We're just going to continue things the way that they are. And
Yeah.
eventually they will realize how important that communication is in their business.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. And one of the things I was thinking as well is I always challenge people to ask so what at least 3 times when they're in this communications sort of planning journey. Why are we doing something? Well, we're doing it because of this. Well, so what? Why is that important? Well, because this
Yes.
is this. Well, so what? Why is that important?
Yeah.
Asking so what at least 3 times like really helps you get to the heart of the matter. And I think that's also really important. Why and so what? Really powerful.
I love it. I love it. Listen,
Yeah.
Jennifer, I don't know where Anita is. Again, internet. I'm going to thank you for joining.
Yeah.
From
Thank
both of
you.
us, from the bottom of my heart, she will connect with you as well. I'm going to put
Yeah.
you backstage for a minute and
Okay.
I'll just bring in a few tips. But thank you again from Anita and myself. It was such a pleasure. Just wait for us backstage so I can come and see you in a minute.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
And
look,
folks can connect with me on LinkedIn.
she's coming.
Oh, she's coming.
Come
Oh,
in.
what?
Yes, let's bring her back for a second. There she is.
There you are.
This all, of course, has to happen when we're like, I don't know what happened. My whole internet just shut down. Everything. I had to
Really?
restart my router, and this has not happened before. So I am so sorry.
No, Anita, was there anything specific that you wanted to? We just continue, and really, I was putting her into, and I was gonna put her backstage, and we're gonna go and bring on the awesome tips that she brought in.
Sounds good. That's all I want to say. I think you caught it before I got dropped here. So
yes,
thank you so much for having me, Anita and Nancy. This was awesome.
Jennifer.
I was just saying people can connect with me here on LinkedIn. I would love that.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I wanted you to continue that sentence, and thank you, Jennifer. We'll see you in a minute.
Okay.
Internet. That was awesome. Yes, that was awesome.
Great conversation. I love Jennifer. She's great. And I'm so excited she could be here today.
Yep, absolutely. I'll let you start because of the internet that left, and you wanted to bring some nice points, and I'll piggyback with you.
Well, actually, one of the things that came up early on, I just want to reiterate because we didn't really focus on it a little bit. But one thing Jennifer said is everybody, when people talk about PR, they're like, oh, media. How do I get on in media? How do I get picked up by reporters and TV and news channels? And I do agree that that's such a big misconception, but it's a fact, unfortunately, that it's really what a lot of people see. This is what PR is, and it's so much more than that. I think it's a lot of what you and I go into with our clients, Nancy, try to put them in the right direction and making sure they know who they are, they know how to communicate who they are, who they're communicating to, and getting everybody involved. And it's so much bigger than just, let me get picked up in media. So I think it's important to emphasize that again.
Yeah. And she said it, there's an art and science in PR. So, I mean, I think my message to everybody would be like, don't do it alone. Like don't do it. You're going to waste time. You're going to waste money. You're going to waste. And remember, once you're visible out there, you may not do it well. You can't remove it off the internet. Get somebody professional. And she said it right. And Anita and I, we both work like this. Don't do what you don't know how to do well. Get a professional, seek their advice, their coaching, learn from somebody who's already mastered it. Right? Because media is not just media. You have to use the right frameworks. Go.
And sometimes it's not even only get it from a professional. It's also that you don't, as a business owner, you don't have that same perspective. Some things that you take for granted from an outside perspective, you should not take for granted. It's you can't view your business the same way as somebody can from the outside. And somebody from the outside can look at what you do and how you do it and find something really unique and special about it that you may not even consider. So yes, get a professional to do it and to make sure it's done right and amplified, but also get that outside perspective. I think that's really important. And that goes into also including your employees, even your vendors at times. How do they view your business? Anybody that is a stakeholder in your business really needs to have a voice.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess to finalize our tips, listen, our takeaways today, she said it, Jennifer, consistency is key.
Yeah, I like that.
And understand your why for everything that you do, not just in PR, but in everything that you do in your business, and don't just say, I'm going to do something for one day. Like, work on it. If you see that this is what's going to help in your communication in your business, do it in consistent, and don't just be the one on the top. Don't forget to communicate with the rest of the people that are actually in your business every day. They're the ones that are driving your business. So why not go to them? Right?
Yeah.
So this has been great, guys. Make sure that you keep in touch with Anita and I to learn about what else is going on with opportunities for additional information and to learn from us. And don't miss out on our future episodes. You're going to always be able to find a copy of this recording on our YouTube channel at Impactful Business Voices. Please support us and click subscribe, the subscribe button, so that you get a notification every Tuesday.
And next Tuesday, it's the end of the month. And as always, it's our monthly business lounge. So as promised from our previous episode, For those of you that caught our last episode, we started going into annual planning. Let's plan for 2024. What does that look like? What do we need to cover? We'll look back at what we did this year, and then what do we need to look forward to? So we want to do a part 2 on this topic, which is going to focus specifically on the marketing planning portion of annual planning, because that's a whole area in itself. And I know it intimidates a lot of people. And we're going to say, like last month, don't get scared. You know, Halloween's over, but we'll go with that same theme. Don't be scared. It's something to look forward to, not to dread. So catch next Tuesday's episode to get your 2024 started off on the right foot.
And until next week, guys, go make an impact.
Thank you for listening to Impactful Business Voices. Subscribe now and don't miss an episode.